Om Wage Jware Mum Wage Jware Mum 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 Jebe dra no par jebe geng tarba dan tam je kembe bardu chopra jeba tam jege se jebe mhanam kada nyambe senchen tam che dewa tam ten tungya tam de nudu lana me paya dabra sobe chanchu rinpo je topra jo dala dhawa jebe dra no par jebe geng tarba dan tam che kembe bardu chopra jeba tam che gese jebe manang kadang nyampe senche tam che dewa dan ten tungya dan nudu lana me paya dabra sobe chanchu rinpo je tompra ja dala dhawa jebe dra nobar jebe ge tarba dan tam che kembe bardu chopra jeba tam jege se jebe manang kadang nyampe senchen tam che dewa dan den dungya dan nudu lana me pa yang dabra sobe chanchu rinpo je tompra ja de je du sama geki bardu longa yisum ke wala ko mashi bardu longa yisum ke wala ko du dering ne sunte ne ma chan da samgi bardu longa yisum ke wala ko Sanje Jodan Soki Jonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kepsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonang Ki Drola Penchir Sanje Druprashu Sanje Jodan Soki Jonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kepsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonang Ki Drola Penchir Sanje Druprashu Sanje Jodan Soji Jonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kepsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonang Ki Drola Penchir Sanje Druprashu Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Dang Dewen Gindan Tempura Gyuchi Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudang Trawa Gyuchi Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Me Trawa Gyuchi Nering Chadang Nidang Trawa Tam Nyola Nepra Gyuchi Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Dang Dewen Gindan Tempura Gyuchi Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudang Trawa Gyuchi Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Me Trawa Gyuchi Nering Chadang Nidang Trawa Tam Nyola Nepra Gyuchi Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Dang Dewe Gyundan Tempra Gyuchi Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi gyudam drawa gyurji, dongyal mebe dewa dame drawa gyurji, niring chadang nidang drawe tang nyongla nebra gyurji. In all the worlds of the 10 directions reside Tathagatas of the 3 times. Before each of you, lions among humans, I prostrate joyfully with body, speech, and mind. By the power of this aspiration to know Bodhis, all conquerors appear vividly in my mind. With as many bodies as there are atoms in all lands, I prostrate to all you conquerors. In each atom are Buddhas numberless as atoms, all in the midst of the heirs of the Buddhas. Thus I conceive of this Dharma Dhatu as completely filled with conquerors in this way. With infinite oceans of praise and oceans of diverse melodies, I sing the excellent qualities of all you conquerors and praise all of you gone to bliss. With the best flowers and best garlands, best music, ointments, and excellent parasols, finest lamps and superior incense I offer to you conquerors. With excellent garments and best fragrances and sandalwood powder heap high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offering perfectly arranged I offer to you conquerors. These vast and unequal offerings to each and every one of you conquerors with the power of conviction in noble deeds I prostrate and offer to all you conquerors. All the harmful deeds that I have done with my body, speech, and mind, under the power of desire, hatred, and ignorance, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in all the meritorious deeds of all conquerors in the 10 directions and the heirs of the Buddhas, solitary realizers, hearers still in training and beyond, and all wandering beings. You who are lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who have unobstructedly attained Buddhahood through the stages of Bodhi, all you who are my protectors, please turn the unexhaled wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly beseech you who may intend to manifest final nirvana. Please remain for as many aeons as there are atoms in the world, for the happiness and well-being of all wandering beings. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, fog, continent, sun, and moon, I visualize as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. To the Gurus who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer, inner, secret, and thusness offerings. With my body, wealth, and all phenomenal existence, please grant the unsurpassed supreme attainment. Whatever slight virtue I may have gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate it to complete Bodhi. Om Guru Deva Dhagini Rana Mandala Praticha Soha. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles in accordance with the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings. Dorji Chanchen Tili Naroda, Mami Dabo Patu Jidin Gungadun Sunden Sawe Lame Shasa Julama Yidam Jogyong La Suwa Devso Dak Jijin Jilo Kya Bengi no Mezon Linga Dobeto Sungyong La Kya Sumeka Wato Jichang Pa Jidin Gumbo Shablo Dudu Tadu Sangyu Kyole Mejin Jilo Shidu Jijin Ninga Mabasa Negan Sendo Dedu Dobra Jin Jilo jin ju jin zang zang pen ma ge sa dong pong la yo sen chu ge ngo du nye pen ma ju ne she she da ko du kan du ma pong ko ro ge ge je se da du ge jin ju lo ji she so so ko ro pen ma se de o men chu ge ye ge bo don ne de sun san je kun ji ngo wo nye ran sen chu ko ngo su don je be za we la me sha la so wa de. So good morning and good evening to everyone. We are towards the end of the chapter that is the chapter on patience, chapter 6 of the Bodhicharyavatara. Just to remind everyone, the context of the sevenfold puja that we recite at the beginning of each class, that is emphasized also in the Bodhicharyavatara, in chapter 2 and 3, in the chapters on confessing, was translated in chapter 2 as confessing, and chapter 3 taking hold of bodhicitta. So in those two chapters, you can basically see the sevenfold puja considered by Shantideva as the foundation, as the necessary, the expression usually used is accumulation. So this accumulation is referring to having enough resources, having enough fuel to become the basis for our pursuit of the Bodhisattva path. Chapter 2 and 3 has the sevenfold puja in them. And the sevenfold puja, as we can see from chapter 2 and 3, is given as Shantideva as the basis for practicing the Bodhisattva path. This basis is the fuel or the merit that is necessary in order to practice the Bodhisattva path. So in this sevenfold puja, with those 7 elements, the Buddhas in particular, and then more generally, the Buddhas and the great Bodhisattvas, the great Arhats, all these sublime beings, they are the object, so to say, of the sevenfold puja. We're offering these 7 branches, we're practicing these 7 branches, these 7 elements in relation to them or with them as the reference point. So this speaks to the importance of having the proper reference point. Proper, in the sense of like what can skillfully, effectively inspire us to embark on this path, to stay on this path, and to complete this path. Sometimes I think in the presentation of Buddhism in the West, and also increasingly I see that even in the presentation of Buddhism in Asia, maybe because like for the West, there's too much baggage associated with previous religious baggage. And then maybe in the East, teachers are seeing that in Asia, people are too much in the mode of kind of like superstition, and so there is sometimes an emphasis on the Buddhist path that seems to discount the possibility or the necessity to be inspired by the examples of the Buddhists, and so that sometimes is downplayed, and it might work for some people. Somewhere along the way, it is going to feel a little dry. I'll feel a little dry, or feel a little lonely, or feel a little like, you have to do it all by yourself. But that's certainly not the case, actually. It is evident, in all the living traditions of Buddhist practice, that in order to embark on the path, to stay on the path, and to achieve the results of the path, it is said that being inspired, which another word for that is faith, being inspired, having confidence through the examples of the awakened beings, that it can sustain us, it becomes necessary. So for example, in one important sutra called the Avatamsaka Sutra, it says, this inspiration, this faith, and this inspiration, this faith, is the mother of the mirrored virtues, mother of the 10,000 mirrored virtues. So all virtues can be developed on the basis of being inspired, on the basis of having faith. Now, having said that, I also don't want you to have the impression or the feeling like, oh, if I don't have this kind of inspiration, if I don't feel this kind of faith, I don't know, maybe I feel it, maybe I don't know, I don't feel it, and if I'm unsure, maybe I don't have it, oh, then I have to leave. That's also not the case. Then I have to leave, then there's no hope. Because faith and inspiration also isn't like something that just fall out of the sky and it'll either hit you or not hit you. But it can grow, it can be developed. All I'm doing here is to remind you not to close that door for that to grow and for that to develop. So your practice of the path, should not be too macho, too emotionless, too cool, There should be softness involved, and there should be warmth involved. Don't close those doors. Don't impede those elements from being developed as skillful elements that is necessary for the path. So with regards to the fourth noble truth, the noble truth of the path, the Buddha says the path has to be developed. So the path has to be developed is not talking about the path needing to be invented. The Buddha has already shown the path, and many generations after the Buddha have continued to show the path right down to our own time. When he says that the path needs to be developed, it means it is not yet the path until it turns up in our own lives, until all these different elements that we're learning begin to arise as our own process. So the path needs to be developed because this path we should not relate to as if it is a set of beliefs, is a set of dogma, that over time you brainwash yourself into accepting them, but rather this path needs to be developed in terms of we need to put into practice. At first we test, then we see, and then if the results come the way that it's predicted to come, then we gain a little bit of confidence. Then we test further, test and see if it works. Not even test and see if it is believable. Those two attitudes are very different. Test to see if it is believable is about, so eventually I will believe unbelievable things. Not like that, but rather test and see if it is effective. So then when you test and you see that it is effective, then you put more of your heart into using it to counteract the mental defilements, to counteract the adventitious kleshas, the afflictive emotions. Yeah, so with that spirit, with that understanding, let's now continue with the text. I believe we have reached the section that starts on verse 76. So verse 76 to 86 in Khenpo Kunpel's commentary, he identifies this section as Shantideva teaching us to develop Kshanti, to exercise Kshanti with regards to those whom we perceive to be supporting those we don't like, to be supporting those people who might harm us. So simply in the old commentary, it's called enemies. Like I said today, most of us don't walk around having this idea that, oh, I have enemies, right? But it's not, it doesn't need to be so like enemies. It's like basically whoever we perceive and experience to impede our attainment of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as they say in the United States. Whoever we perceive, to block or impede that, that's what we mean by enemies. So here it says we should exercise Kshanti towards those whom we feel, we perceive are supporting our enemies. I don't know if you remember, but earlier on in the commentary of Khenpo Kunpel, he basically says that there are three groups that Shantideva are addressing in terms of us practicing Kshanti towards. One group, he says, are those that we perceive to be our enemies. With that definition of enemies I just gave you. Those we perceive to be our enemies. Then those whom we perceive to be enemies to our friends and family. And so that's the second group. Then the third group is those who are friends or friendly to our enemies. So these are the three groups, he says. And then within the three groups, he further divides them. So altogether, I think it came up with 12, and then from 12, it got multiplied to 24. I don't even remember how that number is reached at this point. But basically, I would say, three groups, Yeah. Those that we think, are, against our interest. Those who are against the interests of those we are interested in, we love, we care about. And then those who are for the interests of those who are against us. Three groups. So now we're dealing with those in the third group in this section. Or rather, our reaction and our attitude towards the third group, meaning the third group are those who are helping, supporting, friendly to those who don't support us, not friendly to us, working against our interest. So let us read verses 76 to 86. Yeah. When others take delight in giving praise to those endowed with talents, why, O mind, do you not find a joy likewise in praising them? The pleasure that is gained therefrom itself gives rise to blameless happiness. It is urged on us by all the holy ones, and is the perfect way of winning others. But they are the ones who will have the happiness, you say. If this, then, is a joy you would resent, abandon paying wages and returning favors. You will be the loser, both in this life and the next. When praise is heaped upon your qualities, you're keen that others should be pleased thereby. But when the compliment is paid to others, you feel no inclination to rejoice as well. You who wanted the happiness of beings have wished to be enlightened for their sake. So why should others irk you when they find some pleasure for themselves? And if you claim to wish that beings be enlightened, honored by the triple world, when petty marks of favor come their way, why are you so discomforted? When dependents who rely on you, to whom you are obliged to give support, find for themselves the means of livelihood, will you not be happy? Will you once again be angry? Even if this you do not want for beings, how could you want Buddhahood for them? And how can anyone have bodhicitta who is angry when another prospers? If someone else receives a gift, or if that gift stays in the benefactor's house, in neither case will it be yours. So given or withheld, why is it your concern? All your merit and the faith of others, all your sterling qualities, why throw them all away? Not holding on to what might bring you riches, tell me, why are you not angry at yourself? Not only do you feel no sorrow for the evils you have done, you even wish to match yourself with those whose merit has been earned. Yeah, so these are the verses here. So I don't know, frankly, how well this fit Khenpo Kumpel's category, but that's okay. This is Khenpo Kumpel's commentary, or any commentary, right? We should really relate to commentaries as attempts to help us navigate the text and not get, too hung up on the details. So anyway, 76, when others take delight in giving praise to those endowed with talents, why, O mind, do you not find a joy likewise in praising them? So this is talking about, when we observe someone else being praised, especially though someone else are the people that we don't get along with, and the people that we're critical about, the people that we don't like for this or that reason. During those times, when we see them being praised, so Shantideva directly addressed the mind and said, "Oh mind, how come you don't feel joy?"
almost kind of rhetorically asking the mind, hey, mind, how come you don't feel joy? You know, with the idea that Shantideva says, you should also take delight. Because taking delight or experiencing pleasure or joy, right? Whenever we have that experience, it's good for us. It's good for us. Especially this kind of joy or delight. Meaning, when we see someone else being praised, if somehow we are able to feel the joy that is there by the person doing the praising and by the person experiencing the praising, if we can rejoice in that, regardless of who is being praised, we gain, is what Shantideva is saying. So 77, he says, the pleasure that is gained from that gives rise to blameless happiness. Why is it blameless happiness? Because when we rejoice in the joy that we see going on, someone joyfully praising someone else, and someone joyfully accepting the praise, right? When we rejoice in that, it is called a blameless happiness because there's no ego involved. And there's no manipulation involved. When you are being praised, there is a little danger there. When you are being praised and you enjoy that, there's a little danger there. Your arrogance might grow. So there's a little blame hiding in the corner. Or when you're giving praise, when you're giving praise, there's also a little blame, so to say, hiding in the corner. Because our praising people might be, due to some kind of benefit we think we're going to get when we do that, or some kind of hidden agenda, or maybe sometimes the agenda is not so hidden, right? Whereas rejoicing in other people being praised, other people praising, other people being supported, other people supporting, is blameless because it's free from impure motivation. It's free from arrogance. Yeah, so here's Shantideva says in verse 3 on 7 of 70, line 3 of 77. It says, this is urged upon us by all the holy ones, the Buddhas. They praise. They say, you should try to figure out, you should try to develop the capacity to rejoice in when other people are praised, when other people are benefited, because that kind of joy is free from the dangers of you being the recipient of praise, or you doing the praising. And then he is not above or beyond using also more mundane reasons. He says, and also your ability to do this is a perfect way of winning others. So he says, even if you have an agenda, think of it this way, he says, that when you develop the capacity to really rejoice in others' happiness, in others' success, and especially if those others are known to be your enemies, or people you don't like, when other people see that, they're usually really impressed, even surprised or shocked, like, oh, like how can you, feel that way? Then you're like, well, it's only to my advantage if I feel that way. Of course, it is not normal at all. I can tell you that. It's not normal at all. It's not so easy. But nonetheless, Shantideva wants us to consider how this makes sense. So the first step is to be persuaded by Shantideva that this makes sense. So this is the contemplating part. So first we learn, right? The wisdoms, the 3 types of wisdoms that arise, the type that arise from learning, listening, like what we're doing now, then reflecting, contemplating. Does this make sense? Right? And then you see, well, yeah, this is a good strategy. Yeah. So in terms of making sense, right? Sometimes we overthink this. We want to think about, abstract things. Like, how does this match with truth with a capital T? How does this match with, absolutely true or not true? We don't need to go there. The reflecting here only needs to be on, does this make sense as a skillful strategy to protect our heart, to encourage the growth of qualities and virtues? If we see that this really makes sense, right? Then the third, implementing, which is often called meditating. But meditating can simply mean implementing. Now, let's put this into practice. And so in the next verse 78, Shantideva kind of puts it in a way that we can all relate to. It's sort of like in very mundane. So if appealing to his audience's kind of higher noble aspirations is a little maybe distant, maybe feels a little distant, right? He says, let's take it into very practical terms. He says, okay, now you say, but they're the ones who will have the happiness. Meaning like when someone else is being praised, someone else is being promoted, someone else, and again, especially if those someone else are people we don't like. Because if this is happening to people that we like, that we really care about, we are like, this is so wonderful, wow, let's go celebrate, But so this is particularly those that we don't like, right? Then we're like, there must be like corruption, this praise is not even sincere. We have like things like this, right? Or he says, you say, why should I be happy? Why should I be happy for them? They're the ones who will have the happiness, not, how does that benefit me? And so Shantideva says, if this then is a joy you would resent, I'm reading from the translation I have here. It says, if this then is the joy that you resent other people having, your attitude is like, it's them that is enjoying, not me. Then he says, well, in that case, stop paying wages. That means, people who work for you, stop paying them. See what happens. And stop returning favors. People doing nice things to you, you don't repay because you say, well, it's not me. It's them having the wages. It's them having these favors. I'm not going to give to them. His point is, you keep behaving like this, no one wants to be around you. So he says, you'll be a loser this life, next life. Here, Shantideva is not addressing the general public, He's addressing, hey, those of you who have taken the Bodhisattva vow, those of you who have made the resolve to practice the Bodhisattva way, he says, especially you guys. So it's in a way, I think it's sort of, to me, it's like, okay, don't get too disappointed, if you think, oh, I still have these feelings, I still behave like this. Know that, in a way, it's normal to have these feelings. That's not the real problem. The problem is to not recognize these feelings as impairments, these feelings as blockages, these feelings as hindrances, and not work on removing these feelings, this attitude. So this is, to me, more important here. It's not the fact that we still have these feelings, is having these feelings, having these attitudes, having these kinds of behavior, despite how we see. And we see the logic of bodhicitta, we're inspired by bodhicitta, we have formally given rise to bodhicitta, we want to achieve the result of the bodhisattva path, but nonetheless, these kinds of attitudes can sneak up, can turn up. The fact that they still happen is not really where the bad news is. The bad news is not recognizing them as hindrances and faults. That's the bad news. So here, Shantideva wants us to see that and see those faults and work on removing those faults. So here, 79, it says, when praise is heaped upon your own qualities, you're so keen that everybody agrees. Everybody is happy. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, yes, Han. Really good. Oh, wonderful. Doing so well. Oh, wow, wow. You're like, yes, yes, yes. Let's hope more people see this. Let's hope more people understand this. Like how many likes did I get? All of that, right? But when the compliment is paid to others, you feel no inclination to rejoice as well. So you look at other people's Facebook, you're like, yeah, all those likes, they probably paid someone to click those likes. Or yeah, just a lot of people click because they like this person to like them because this person has a fancy title. Oh, so then people just like, and they're not even really listening to what this person is saying. So those are the things that come, He says, look, despite we have taken the Bodhisattva vow, despite we want to liberate all sentient beings, these crazy things still turn up. So verse 80, Shantideva reminds us, you who want the happiness of beings have wished to be awake for their sake. So why should others irk you when they find some pleasure for themselves? He's saying, how in the world did we get so petty? On the one hand, all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, blah, 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 blah. He says, you've taken that vow, Then you see your enemies, so to say, or people you don't like, getting more likes than you. You're like, I don't know. Some monkey business is going on. Sometimes it's not even people you don't like, sometimes even people you like, people you care for, you're like, I don't know. And they're just lucky, they get so many praises. So, Shantideva says, hello? You say you want to work for the happiness for all beings, So why can't you rejoice in people finding some pleasure for themselves? And even that, sometimes we are very judgmental. We see someone having some pleasure. Yeah, even if the pleasure, you say, is not from what you would consider a skillful kind of pleasure, a pleasure that will get them in trouble, You got to see, how often it is that we are actually not happy that they're having a good time. And therefore, marshaling some self-righteousness that they're having a good time. Or are we really concerned that their way of having a good time is going to lead them into trouble? It's a very fine line. So verse 81, it says, continuing from 80, and if you claim to wish that beings be enlightened, if you claim that you made the vow that beings become awake, honored by the triple world, but when petty marks of favor come their way, why are you so discomforted? So this is related to, the problem here is related to what we might call poverty mind, the hungry ghost mind. I don't have enough, I'm not good enough, so it comes back to that. Rather than, recognizing the diamond that we are. We get carried away by the crud, the things that are covering the diamond. And this path is the path of polishing the diamond that we are. So now let's take a break, and then we'll continue. Yeah. So we are back. So before we continue with these verses, let's see if there's any questions, comments, anything to share. Yes, one more.
Claudia, ¿me escuchas? Gracias, claro. Es más que nada un comentario. Ahora que estuve leyendo hace unas semanas estos versos, justamente hay un verso donde, déjate digo qué verso, donde habla de que si no, ¿por qué no te regocijas cuando los seres son felices, cuando tienen felicidad? Y en especial ese verso, para mí fue como muy confrontativo porque me di cuenta de que cuando había personas que sentían felicidad, pero por cosas como mundanas de alguna manera, pues yo no reconocía como esa felicidad, ¿sabes? Yo sentía como, pues, sienten felicidad, pero no es como una felicidad genuina y demás. Pero al leer este verso, para mí fue como, pues me cayó como el 20 y dije, bueno, pues de alguna manera ya te están ayudando un poquito en el camino. Pues si tú deseas que sean felices todos estos seres, pues si ya te están, al final del día te están quitando trabajo, te están quitando chamba, ¿por qué no también ser feliz con esto? Entonces, pues siento que estos versos son de mucha ayuda y al menos para mí fue, pues muy significativo esos versos.
Yes.
From Omar, who says that he has been reading this verse, and there is just this verse where
Claudia, let's try something. Under the interpretation, are you able to go back into the main room?
Yes, actually, I am in English room.
You're in the English room. Can everybody hear? No. So can you go to no, go to like off? Do you see off as an option? No off, yeah? Okay. So what about now? Do you see anything? Okay, try speaking. Okay. Okay, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, just go ahead and then I will repeat. Just trying to figure out how. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm. Uh-huh. Right. Yes, yes. So I'll repeat, try to summarize. Omar was sharing how these few verses has been very helpful to him as he reads it again and again. Because he says, especially, when I think this applies to all of us, when we're in, especially I would say on days when we're in a very Dharma mode, right? Then we see people having, experiencing happiness or pleasure. And then we see that, oh, this is like mundane. Then we feel like we feel like we need to like ignore or even like put down the happiness that they're experiencing. And we say, oh, this is just a mundane thing. They don't really know what happiness is. So we fall into that, and he says part of it might be, he's understanding now, might actually be him feeling like, if they are having their happiness, so then I don't have anything to do now. I say I want to bring happiness to beings, So there's all these subtle kinds of things that are going on. Yeah, there are all these subtle kinds of things going on that just kind of impedes, now it's my commentary on that, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because there's all these little things that come and impede our ability to rejoice, and to see that, whether others rightfully or not rightfully, experiencing happiness, the happiness itself that they experience need not be turned into like, me, not me, things like that. So 82, totally, I think, points this out. He says, Shantideva says, when dependents who rely on you, to whom you are obliged to give support. So this is saying, in a way, like, you say you have taken the Bodhisattva vow. Now you want to work on achieving Buddha, so that you can help others to become Buddhists, to become free from suffering. So in this same way, he says, so when dependents who rely on you, to whom you're obliged to give support, find for themselves the means of livelihood. So they have found some kind of way that don't need you so much, He says, will you not be happy? Why aren't you happy? Why are you upset, Again, he points to the absurdity of our feelings, Our reasoning, most of us are quite capable of being reasonable. It's a matter of whether we want or we don't want to, Most of us are quite capable of being reasonable. But then when these, like, illogical, unreasonable, mysterious emotions come in, when we see others experiencing happiness, instead of going, oh, wow, now it's easier, my job. More people are experiencing happiness. We're like, well, I don't know. And so 83 says, if even this you do not want for beings, how could you want Buddhahood for them? How can anyone have bodhicitta who is angry when someone else prospers, when someone else is doing well? Huh? How can you really have bodhicitta that way? So in 84, he again uses a line of reasoning, that shows the absurdity of our unreasonable feelings. He says, if someone else receives a gift, or if that gift stays with the giver, that means that the giver did not give and kept it in their house. It says in both scenarios, right? The gift is not yours. So why do you care? In fact, the next point he makes is just like, not only in this sense, it will not make a difference to you when whether someone, if someone doesn't give a gift to that someone else, or doesn't give praises to that someone else, in any case, it's not as if they're going to give it to you, right? So he's saying, why do you care? And then the next point, in 85, he's saying, and not only that, when you care in that unskillful way, in other words, when jealousy turns up, you throw away all your merit, you throw away the faith of others, meaning other people's admiration of you, other people's being inspired by you, and your actual sterling qualities because of your jealousy. All those will be thrown away. Yeah, so he says, and so not holding on to what you have, which is your merit, other people's admiration of you, and those qualities that you have, because through jealousy, you're basically throwing them away. So not holding on to these real riches that you have. Tell me, he says, why aren't you upset at yourself? Yeah, he's not encouraging you to beat yourself up, okay? It's just saying, you're so busy getting angry at other people, being jealous at other people. Can you see that you are destroying your own happiness when you do that? Uh, 86, he says, not only do you feel no sorrow for the evils you have done. Evil here means, all the unskillful ways that you have acted that have produced suffering for yourself and others. Not only do you feel no sorrow, you even wish to match yourself with those whose merit has been earned. So you want to, not only do you not feel, regret or sorrow for the unskillful actions that you continue to continue to engage in, but as you do that, you want to get the same kind of happiness as those who actually have been doing things to remove obstacles to true happiness. In other words, he says, how ridiculous are we? So the next section, just 3 verses, again in Khenpo Kumbel's commentary, he says, this is to exercise Kshanti, forbearance, towards obstacles that prevent bad things from happening to enemies. Practicing patience, Kshanti, when obstacles that prevent bad things from happening to your enemies turn up. Meaning you've been waiting for something bad to happen to your enemies, then some situation, somebody comes along and saves the day for your enemies. Then you're like, I really hate this. He says, at that time, you need to practice Kshanti. So 87, he says, so if unhappiness befalls your enemies, you get news that, someone that you don't like, people that that you say are enemies, some bad thing has happened to them, and he says, why are you so happy? He says, you're feeling happy, right? it's not going to, kind of make them suffer more. Why take pleasure, like this, he says. In other words, he's saying, merely you wishing them bad things isn't actually going to cause them harm. Now, of course, wishing them bad things and then taking steps to have bad things happen to them, that's different. And here he's saying, your mind like wishing them bad things or getting happy when you receive news that bad things had happened to them. He says, that kind of mindset isn't going to promote your cause, because if you think your cause is to weaken your enemies, your thoughts of that sort will not weaken your enemies in any case, he says. So 88, he says, and if your hostile wishes were to bring them harm, and he says, okay, let's say, yes, merely by you wishing them bad things will actually bring them harm. He says, what cause of joy is that to you? Then he rhetorically, he says, well, then I will be satisfied if they suffer. I like to see them suffer. He says, are these your thoughts? Again, remember, right? He's addressing those who have taken the Bodhisattva vow. He says, hello? Are you now thinking like that? And the last line of verse 88, is anything more ruinous, more harmful than that? Is there anything more harmful than that? And a stern reminder, verse 89. Oh, this is a good one, You should write it somewhere and put it, put it in a strategic place, a place that we know we often get in trouble, wherever that might be. He says, caught by the hook, like a fish, caught by the hook, unbearable and sharp, cast by the fisherman, my own defilements. Who traps us? Who catches us? The fishermen of our mental defilements, our mental emotional defilements, that which covers, that which stains our otherwise innately pristine mind. when we are caught like that by these mental defilements, we'll be flung into the cauldrons of the pit, the burning cauldrons, these big pots of hot water like the witches, and surely boiled by the janitors of hell. The guards of the hell realms will be boiling us in these cauldrons, poetically speaking. Yeah, so elsewhere, Shantideva says, those enemies that we have, the worst they can do is to ruin this life and kill us. But the real enemy of the mental defilements, the harm that they will cause to us, is lifetime and lifetime and lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of being flung into the hell realms. And so some of us, even just within this body, have lived many, many lifetimes of the hell realms already. Because when we're experiencing ill will, when we're experiencing resentment, when we're experiencing anger, in those moments, we're already in the hell realms. When we experience, poverty mind, not enough, not good enough, comparing with others, and on, poor me. People are going out of their way to deprive me for what I deserve, what I should get, all of that. And then we are living in the realm of hungry ghosts. So we need to recognize who the true enemies are, so to say. The true enemies are the mental defilements are the afflictive emotions, the kleshas. The next section is from verses 90 to 111. This section Khenpo Kumpel identifies as exercising, practicing Kshanti towards those who prevent us from reaching our desires. Yeah, so we will start that section on Tuesday. So today we will end a little bit earlier. But again, let's see, in case anyone has any questions or comments before we actually end. If not, let's do the Bodhicitta dedication. And then I'll see all of you, as many of you as are able to, this coming Tuesday. Chanchu sem chorim poche ma ge banam ge yuche ge ba nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du pe war sure. Okay, you all have a good weekend. I'm now back in Asheville. This is supposed to be a very nice weekend, so you should rejoice in my nice weather. And I will remember to dedicate this enjoyment to you.
Gracias, Dr. Lai.
Yeah, bye.